Hello! Welcome back to Charles Shack. I'm Ian Johnston, and today I'm really excited. And this is why I bring it. It's new bike day. Today I'm talking about the Alias 24.1, the budget street trials bike that I've just got hold of. I've been pretty keen to do this for a while, so let's get straight into it. I had a chat with the guys from Alias and they've sent over a load of information about the bikes. So tested with the help of Victor Albach and Theo Collon. The 24.1 was developed after the success of the 20.1 and 20.2 frames, the 20-inch version. There was a few variations apparently of the prototype frames before they settling on the final design. They've listed that it's very hard to keep a bike down to this low price point, so the V-brake option of the Alias 24.1 is available for only £720. For a full bike. You can't really go wrong with that, can you? The priority with the 24.1 was to make a great frame that any level of rider could ride and make sure it was strong enough that someone could buy the 24.1, then gradually improve the parts kit as their skills progress. And that makes perfect sense. I think if you're just getting into trials, you don't want a £2,500 bike. You want a bike that can introduce you to the sport, and then you can get the pleasure of upgrading the parts as you go and making those decisions as you go. The geometry of this bike is quite close to what you find on more high-end bikes. I really like the Geo. It's shorter than anything I've ever ridden, but it's not a problem. So the wheelbase is 968, which is crazy short. The chainstay length is 362, so that's the same as what I was riding before in the arcade. Bottom bracket height is a little bit lower than what I was last running. The bottom bracket height is plus 15mm and the head tube angle is 74 degrees. I actually think that probably the shortness of the bike as well, but the head tube angle at 74 degrees is the sweet spot for front wheel moves. 74.5 actually throws you over the front way too quickly, if you ask me. I always find that if I'm trying to do something like a nose roll with that steep head angle, then I've done the back pedal and I switch up to front, I always end up going a bit too far, and so it throws you straight over the front. I'm so far over the front that I'm almost stopping rather than sliding down a hill and feathering the brake. I definitely describe the bike as being twitchy, but in a nice way. It actually feels a bit more BMX-y than when I was riding the Inspired Arcade. Little things like 180s, turning around after you've done something where you end up going backwards. The bike just whips around really quick and it feels nice, like it just seems to flow nicely, how quickly things twitch around. The frame set itself is quite close to frames like the old Inspired console, with top quality tube sets being used. That higher quality material is where there had to be some compromises made, such as the plain head tube and the bottom bracket shell. These aren't performance parts of the frame, so they save a bit of money on those components to allocate more frame budget to using better quality materials. Made more sense than compromising the frame overall just for the aesthetics. They've gone for a curved blade fork instead of the straight blade forks on something like the arcade. Again, that's a nod to older riders, to old school bikes, again, such as the Pashley 26MHz, and I love that they've gone down that route because it just gives the bike a different look. Since the Inspired Arcades come out with those straight blade forks, I think they've become the norm, and it was a bit weird to see curved blade forks, but I really like the way they look actually. All the parts are unbranded, and I think that looks really cool. It's a nice move. Instead of having a cheap manufacturer name on your bike, you've actually just got no brands, and that's something that gives a nice stealth look. Chain tugs used on the back for tensioning the chain. That's one of those things that's nicer on the arcade. You've got the micro chain tugs that fit nicely onto the dropouts. And you can just use a little 3mm Allen key to tighten up your chain. Whereas with these chunky chain tugs, it means I'm now carrying around a 10mm spanner in my bag in case I do want to tighten up the chain tension. But that's the difference you get from a budget bike versus a high-end bike. He also sent over these tasty raw bike pictures. Take a look at that. It's really nice seeing the worlds. Like, I do really like the gloss white paint finish, but I I'd half be tempted to strip the paint off and run it like that, because that looks sick. So my personal opinion on the bike, initial opinions, I really like the way it looks. I think they've done a great job with the frame kit. I understand the budget parts to it, and that's how that price is at that price point. For me, the downsides were the back brake just wasn't good enough with the standard pads. I mean, you could grind the rim and then obviously you wouldn't have any issues at all. I wouldn't be keen on grinding the rim. I'd probably opt for changing out the pads for some smooth rim specific trials brake pads. I saw that Tighty Bikes had some Jitsi V-brake pads which were meant for smooth rims, so that would be my recommendation. If you were going for one of these, you were going to run the V-brakes on it, I'd change the rear V-brake pads straight away for something which is a bit more trial specific, unless you're going to be grinding the rim. For the front they were fine. I had no problems doing things like nose rolls, squeakers, that front wheel control, gaps to front as well. There wasn't enough slippage with those brake pads to make them a problem. If you wanted them to really lock, again, you're probably better off getting trial specific brake pads for the front, but you'd start getting squeaky noises and you wouldn't get as much modulation. So that'd be my only recommendation if you're going to change anything or buy anything when you bought the bike from scratch. If you're going to be running V-brakes, then yeah, go for some V-brake specific pads. In terms of plus points, I've mentioned that I love the way it looks. Again, the quality on the frame kit is really good, nice and strong. That nimble modern geometry feels really nice to ride. It's got a beautiful paint job, a quality produced product. I'm 100% happy to keep this frame kit for the foreseeable future. The bike's obviously still quite new to me, so I'm going to carry on riding it, and I will review it and get it up on trialshack.com. Massive thanks to Tighty Bikes for all your help. If you've got any specific questions about the Alias, then please fire away in the comments and I'll get back to you. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!